Bill, how long have you been married? And how long did you court Judy before you got married?
Probably a year and a half, and then we've been married 43 years.
Okay, you said 42 last year. Are you sure?
It feels like 43, but
Yeah,
it is
I got
actually
you.
42. Yeah.
I totally understand. I have the same thing with my spouse as well.
Yes.
It's totally cool. 33 years married. Thank you so much. I'll be 35 in a couple weeks. No, you walk with college students. Like that's been one of your primary roles as a professor. Would you talk to me briefly on how do you live out of singleness? I know you haven't been single, but your wisdom into this might be helpful. There's a lot of single people or dating people. How do you live out of singleness well? Give me like one liner on what, if there's any single people in the room. Are there any people that are dating or single, not married people? Would you just raise your hand, non-married? There's a lot of us. Okay, how do we do that well?
I don't know if I can do it in just one line.
1 minute, go.
Okay. Well, the point I made last week is parallel to this one, and that is when you get married, you're choosing marriage as the primary way by which you will choose to be conformed to Christ-likeness. Whether you choose singleness or it has been chosen for you, that's still the primary way you are choosing to be conformed to Christ-likeness. So the goal in marriage is not happy marriage, it's holiness. The goal in singleness is not to get married or to be happy single. It's Christ-likeness. And both of them provide avenues and vehicles uniquely for that outcome. Does that make sense? So the challenge really finally is instead of trying to adjust and fix so that you'll fit in or be happy or whatever, candidly, if you're not happy single, you won't be happy married. Because happy doesn't travel with you.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
Because culture's saying all I got to do
Yeah,
is find the hot, sexy, whatever.
Yeah.
And all my needs will be met.
Yeah.
That's not true?
No,
okay,
sorry.
Keep going.
Not true. Never actually been true, as it turns out. But we want it so much to be true that we keep on believing the lies.
Okay, so just follow-up question then. Because I feel like in Christian culture, the literature, I don't know, maybe it's Instagram feeds. I'm not on it right now, but I feel like this is what we do, is we make finding a spouse the goal for singleness.
Yeah.
Can you give me like one practical and like, because I think that's a dominant lie. Like I think, I don't know, would you guys agree? Like that seems to be the thing, like the goal if you're single is to find, it's like that's what this culture pushes us towards. So how then do we resist culture? And is there any discipline to resist culture, anything you could encourage us to move into, like pursuing holiness and Christ-likeness in singleness with the goal not being to find a spouse?
Yeah. Again, it's a bit of it's a little bit harder, longer journey, but the core of it is, at the end of the day, it's what we've been talking about these last 3 weeks, right, or 2 weeks, and we'll continue today and next week, and that is if your identity is in singleness, the game's already over. So, because then okay, I'm not completely whole until I find someone, and so we end up, because remember that desperation drives bad decision making, and I gotta be with somebody pushes you into a place where you turn to be married to the wrong person. If whatever that might mean, is a whole lot more damaging to your soul than to not be married at all. And so the piece finally is to find identity, anchor, and the challenge that our culture, and candidly, you say our culture, but really the church culture has not been really helpful here either, has created this scenario in which there are kind of layers, right? Married couples have a different identity in the church than singles, which would have been a big surprise to Jesus, because he would have been on the wrong side of that fence, as would have Paul and many of the other disciples. So we want to...
Because to touch on that, like it seems like you have to be married to be in leadership in churches, right? And it's like, well, if you have to be married to be an elder or leadership, you disqualify Paul, Jesus, like from leadership in the church. So that like logic doesn't make sense.
It just doesn't make sense.
I mean, I've been a part of churches that were like that. That's not how the garden operates, but like there is that like subtext. So thank you for sharing that. Can I ask one more question because we have time, real quick? And this is a personal one, so you guys get to hear like how Bill pastors me. So one of the things that I'm wondering about, as Ezra's growing up and the demands of church keep changing and moving, and I think some of us can relate. There's some people that are in ministry here that are parents or going to be married. And how, give me one quick, advice on how to lead the church well and not sacrifice my family while leading the church. The thing inside
Get
of
good
me.
at disappointing people.
Yeah, okay. Dang, I'm a people pleaser.
I know.
So
We've been through this before.
But I also my quest. Our next series we're starting in a couple weeks is called The Present Future Church, and we talk about identity. And I want to talk about the church of the future in the West. And the Lord was speaking. I was praying. I had a month off of teaching, and I was trying to write a series, and it wasn't working. And I felt like the Lord just say, I want you to write a series about the church you want to give to your kids. And so this whole series is built on this idea of the church I want my kids to inherit versus the things that we've had to discover along the way. And I was thinking about that, but as a pastor trying to lead, so just how do I lead a church well and lead my family well? Disappoint people? Is there anything else?
I mean, because you know what's in behind that, right? Which is the ability to say no when people are telling you what they want you to do. And I think the biggest gift we give to our kids is ourselves. So if you're saying yes to everybody else and have no room or space left for spouse and kids. And by the way, this is true if you're a single parent as well, because one of the things we didn't talk about in the singleness conversation is that sometimes we have let that become an artificial barrier to participating in some larger aspects of God's mission, right? Ideally, a child needs a mom and a dad to grow in, but you have a community. So as a single man, single woman, foster adopt, and then build a community, a village, if you want, that will help you in that hard work. But then you need to realize, okay, this means certain things in terms of my responsibilities. This means certain things in terms of the task. In ministry, it's really challenging, and it's what just about blew up my marriage, was that I was choosing consistently the church over Judy and the boys, until finally Jude confronted me on it one October night. And it was life-changing for me because I realized that she said, as far as I'm concerned, this is her language, our marriage is over. I will stay married to you because if I didn't, it would ruin your ministry, which hit me like a ton of bricks. If my ministry is built on the illusion of a marriage, then I don't have a ministry, right? So it took me 3 years to figure out how to be married, and it's still a longer time to learn how to minister. But what that meant was, I think Jesus knows that I'm married. What had happened was that I was confusing my work for Jesus with my relationship with Jesus. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And this will persist long after this is gone. So the balancing piece had to come in, and part of that then means saying no to things that people want me to do, and things that I even want to do sometimes, but that are not what he's asked me to do. So.
Powerful. I'll take some prayer after the service. Okay. Hey, let me pray for us. I think I'm committed now to finding a month where Bill and I can do a series together where I just ask questions, because his little one-offs are amazing, right?